Hello everybody and welcome back to our series where we take a look at the major characters coming up in the new Warlords of Draenor expansion. My name is Necroxis and we're going to continue with our look today at another one of the titular warlords and hopefully do so with some bloodthirsty accuracy. Well, I never professed to be a master of puns, only lore. Regardless, today we're taking a look at the warlord and chieftain of the Shattered Hand clan, the pointedly savage Kargath Bladefist. See what I did there? After reaching the position of a grunt in his clan, Kargath cut off his own hand and replaced it with the scythe so affectionately named the Bladefist. It is unknown if he took the surname Bladefist before or after this, however we probably could guess it is the latter. Soon after this, he rose to the station of Chieftain of the Shattered Hand, a group infamous in orc culture for their practice of self-mutilation that every grunt in the clan must perform. Before Ner'zhul and Gul'dan cast the orcs into the hand of the Burning Legion, Kargath led the Shattered Hand and they attended the biannual Orcish Unity Festival at their holy mountain of Oshigan called the Kosh'harg Celebration. Of course, afterwards, we all know the story by now. If not, go back and watch the Black Hand video where I explain it more fully. But for a concise version, Kil'jaeden contacts Ner'zhul pretending to be his dead mate. He tells them the Draenei are bad dudes, so Ner'zhul convenes the orc chieftains, Bladefist among them, and convinces them to wage war on the Draenei. He gets cold feet after realizing Kil'jaeden is just using them, and is supplanted by his apprentice Gul'dan, who has no problem screwing over his entire race for more power. Gul'dan whips the orcs into a blood frenzy, and later on convinces them to drink the blood of Mannoroth to corrupt them into the Burning Legion's hands. When Gul'dan creates his Shadow Council, Kargath Bladefist was among the original membership of the group, and was notably the only non-warlock member to reach Gul'dan's inner circle. Yet despite this, when the orcs began marching through the Dark Portal onto Azeroth, Kargath Bladefist and the Shattered Hand clan begrudgingly remained on Draenor, under the leadership of Ner'zhul, who, despite having been usurped by Gul'dan, was allowed to continue to be privy to the Shadow Council's information, and held on to enough power through his numbers alone. Time for a bit more history before we continue, however. Following the First War, Gul'dan would fall into a coma and Black Hand killed by Doomhammer. The Second War would then come and go, concluding with the War Chief being defeated by High General Turalyon of the Alliance of Lordaeron, and Gul'dan dying in the Tomb of Sargeras after betraying the Horde. The final battle of the Second War saw the Dark Portal on Azeroth destroyed, and the resulting explosion affected Draenor's portal and injured Ner'zhul, who was in the vicinity. For 2 years following, the Elder Shaman recovered and the orcs fought amongst themselves. It wasn't until Terran Gorfein, the first orc Death Knight created by Gul'dan, devised a plan to open portals to other planets so the orcs could escape the dying Draenor. Having isolated himself and his clan in Shadowmoon Valley, Ner'zhul listened to Gorfein and agreed to his plan. However, 4 specific artifacts were needed to accomplish this feat: the Book of Medivh, the Jeweled Scepter of Sargeras, the Eye of Dalaran, and the Skull of Gul'dan himself. Through some shenaniganery and aid by the Black Dragon Aspect Deathwing, Ner'zhul achieved these 4 artifacts. However, when the Horde traveled back to Azeroth through a rift left behind by the Dark Portal's destruction, they alerted the Alliance, which had built the fortress of Netherguard Keep at the urging of Archmage Khadgar to watch over the rift. In response, the Alliance expedition was sent, headed up by Khadgar himself and including the fabled Alliance heroes such as Danath Trollbane, Illyria Windrunner, Kurdran Wildhammer, and even High General Turalyon himself. The Alliance expedition traveled through the rift to Draenor and established the foothold of Honor Hold. With their goal of chasing Ner'zhul down to stop him from using the artifacts from whatever plan he had, they attacked Hellfire Citadel, believing that he still remained there. However, Kargath Bladefist and Ner'zhul's subordinate, Dentarg, had been left behind to delay the Alliance, while the Elder Shaman fled to Black Temple to begin opening his rifts. And despite their loss of the Second War, the Horde's capital of Hellfire Citadel was still heavily fortified. Regardless, they were no match for the expedition, with Illyria Windrunner's rangers killing their sentries. The gates opened and the Alliance stormed the fortress, butchering most of Kargath's clan. Dentarg himself was killed in a battle with Khadgar, and the Ogre Magi stood no chance against the supreme power of the Last Guardian's own apprentice. The battle clearly in the Alliance's favor, Kargath realized he had been left there to die. Nonetheless, he managed to pull back a few of his forces and escape, hoping to intercept the Alliance and continue his service to the Horde. As such, he traveled to the village of Garadar in Nagrand and attempted to convince Great Mother Gaia to lend him her warriors that had remained in her city. She refused the request, seeing as Geradar was a village of orcs recovering from the Redpox disease, and Kargath stormed off. The Shattered Hand chieftain realized he did not have the numbers to stop the Alliance, so he decided to abandon Ner'zhul and the Horde's struggle to reclaim Hellfire Citadel one day in the future when he was stronger, more prepared, and most importantly had better numbers. As for the Alliance, they would track down Ner'zhul to Black Temple where he opened portals to the Nether, escaping, and I'm using air quotes here because he fell right into Kil'jaeden's hands, and causing Draenor's destruction. As the dying world began to sunder, Warsong and Shattered Hand orcs that survived the Alliance's attack on Hellfire Citadel began to flee through the portal to escape the destruction. A large percentage of both entered just in time before Khadgar closed the dark portal from their side to save Azeroth. However, most of these orcs that fled through the portal were captured by the Alliance and placed into internment camps, but some did remain with Kargath himself on Draenor and survived the Cataclysm. At some point after Khadgar closing the portal, the Pit Lord Magtheridon arrived on the planet, now known as Outland. Magtheridon offered his blood to Kargath and the Shattered Hand, empowering them and transforming them into Fel Orcs. With Magtheridon's demons and his blood in their veins, Kargath and his clan drove the Alliance out of Hellfire Citadel and reclaimed the Horde's former capital. After leaving the Citadel in Kargath's care, Magtheridon took up residence in Black Temple. For years, the Pit Lord ruled over Outland until the coming of Illidan Stormrage. The arrival of the Betrayer dictated a new era for Outland. With aid from Lady Vashj and her Naga, as well as Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider and his Blood Elves, Illidan cast Magtheridon down from Black Temple and declared himself the new ruler of Outland. Kargath Bladefist and his Shattered Hand clan swore allegiance now to their new leader, and they were tasked with overseeing Magtheridon, who had been imprisoned in Hellfire Citadel and whose blood was being used to create more Fel Orcs from the various remnants of the Orcs' clans still on the planet. The Shattered Hand, the Shadow Moon, the Bone Chewer, the Bleeding Hollow, the Dragon Maw, and the Laughing Skull clan all had their remnants beginning to indoctrinate into Illidan's Fel Horde. Years after Illidan secured his control over Outland, and 2 years after the founding of Durotar, the Doomguard Lord Kazak found a relic radiating with energy that allowed him to reopen the Dark Portal, enabling Azeroth once again access to the Shattered World. Multiple factions swarmed through the portal for various reasons. The Horde's orc members wanted to reconnect with their homeworld, and the Blood Elves wanted to join up with Prince Kael'thas. The Alliance's new allies, the Draenei, sought to return to their homes as well, while also discovering the fate of the Sons of Lothar. Arriving at Hellfire Peninsula, both the Alliance and Horde came face to face with Kargath Bladefist, now War Chief of Illidan's Fel Horde. At some point before their arrival, Kargath replaced his other hand with a blade as well, and he'd need both of his blade fists. Hellfire Citadel was the first primary target of both factions, with the Alliance wanting the attacks against Honorhold to cease, while the Horde, specifically Thrall, wished to see the corruption of further orcs ended. Deep within Hellfire Citadel, commanding the Fel Horde from the seat of the Shattered Halls, adventurers for the Horde and the Alliance finally ended War Chief Kargath Bladefist's life, effectively dismantling Illidan's massive Fel Orc army. And despite his eventual corruption and subservience to Illidan Stormrage, Kargath Bladefist was regarded as a highly respected orc by both the original Horde as well as Thrall's Horde. Though his fall is viewed as unfortunate, they remember the proud fighter he once was. This is supported by the words of Thrall's advisor Nazgrel, the outpost of Kargath in the Bladelands being named in his honor, the shore south of Orgrimmar being dubbed Bladefist Bay, and the headquarters of the Warsong logging camp in Ashvale being called Kargathia Keep. Although the Shattered Hand remained on Draenor after Khadgar closed the portal, eventually would fall into corruption and be slain by the hands of the Horde and the Alliance, there did exist another faction of them, those that escaped to Azeroth and were captured by the Alliance of Lordaeron. During Thrall's uprising, they joined up with his Horde and continue to serve under the Horde's banner to this day. They serve as the Horde's Guild of Assassins, similar, although in a much smaller capacity, to the Alliance's SI-7 organization. Okay, now in Warlords of Draenor, Kargath Bladefist's history is quite different. He still does lead the Shattered Hand clan, but they seem to have a bit more of a unique twist. They hail from the Spires of Arak, an autumnal, swampy forest notable for its impossibly high spires that put even the Thousand Needles to shame, and is also home to the Arakoa. These Shattered Hand orcs are known as Pure Statists, a clan made up of slaves and outcasts of the various other orc clans. They are the most hate-filled orcs out of all of Draenor, and this version of Kargath Bladefist is perhaps the worst. Once a slave to the ogres, Kargath cut off his own hand to remove his bonds, and then attached a blade to it and slew his captors. Now the rest of his clan imitates Kargath's pattern by emulating his body modification. Best or worst, depending on your viewpoint of it all, is that the scar they receive removing their hands is only the first of many. Both on their own bodies and of their foes, they revel in the sculpting clay that is flesh. By now, I'm sure you've noticed that this Kargath Bladefist looks quite different from our versions. Most notably, his skin tone is pale grayish. Seeing as these Shattered Hand orcs are made up of various different clans, it is entirely possible that Kargath Bladefist was originally a member of the Blackrock clan, who also share the gray skin color. Another possibility is that his skin color is a result of years of working underground in the mines as a slave of the ogres. That's about all we know of Kargath Bladefist in Warlords of Draenor thus far, so let's move on to my opinion section about him. Out of what I'd argue are the lesser warlords of this expansion, namely Blackhand, Kargath, and Kil'jaeden, I easily consider Kargath Bladefist the most interesting. We have a general idea of how the rest of the warlords are going to act, except for Kargath. He is so radically different from his Azeroth version that truly Blizzard could go in any direction with him as a character. I'm going to try and explain why I find him fascinating, but I realize that it might come off convoluted to somebody who isn't in my head, so hopefully you can follow along. I see two clans and their chieftains this expansion who seem pretty obviously insane or leaning insane, and they are the Shattered Hand with Kargath and the Bleeding Hollow clan with Kil'jaeden. Now you might ask why I classify these two as insane. While the Bleeding Hollow are easy to figure out why, seeing as they do intense shamanistic rituals in the jungle where they see their own death and rip out their eyeballs, the Shattered Hand are a bit harder. Sure, you could point to their self-dismemberment, but personally the description of them carving scars into their own and their enemy's flesh I see as far more insane. If I had to attribute a type of insanity to each one, I would say that the Bleeding Hollow and Kil'jaeden are a more uncontrolled or wild insanity, while the Shattered Hand are focused and contained. I would even argue that the Shattered Hand seems sociopathic, albeit they might not exactly fit that definition. And as such, Blizzard can do so much more with Kargath Bladefist and the Shattered Hand versus the group where it seems like they're crazy for crazy's sake. Did that explanation make sense to anybody else? Who knows. The TLDR of it is basically, it'd be awesome to see a clan of orc sociopaths. Where Kil'jaeden is probably unquestionably loyal to the Iron Horde, it'd be nice to see a potential other chieftain who is out for power, besides Gul'dan and Ner'zhul. After the initial raid storyline culminating with the Black Foundry raid and presumably the death of Blackhand, what an interesting twist would it be if Kargath tried to lay claim to the Blackrock clan by stating he was a former member. Unfortunately, I fear that Blizzard will end up introducing and killing him off within the Spires of Iraq story, or dungeon, but if we're going to be reliving old orc heroes, I feel like we should at least get some interesting twists out of it. Now, I know not every character can be a super manipulative mastermind, but my favorite villains in the lore have always been those who are more than just "rawr, we're evil." Villains who have machinations, villains who surprise you, villains who are actually smart. Ajara, Gul'dan, Grand Apothecary Putris, Vanessa Van Cleef, and maybe Wrathion, ? It would be quite an interesting twist if Blizzard added Kargath Bladefist to that list. And of course, I didn't even mention here any of the possible shenanigans with the Arakoa and a possible Old God connection, which you can hear about more in my post-BlizzCon Warlords of Draenor video. Perhaps the Shattered Hand are the ones being affected by or wanting to help the Old Gods, not the Arakoa like I suggested. That also could be an interesting twist. Regardless, my realistic hopes for Kargath Bladefist and the Shattered Hand clan are they aren't simply the villain of the zone that we meet and dismiss within that zone storyline. And there we go. That's about all I have to say about Kargath Bladefist and the Shattered Hand clan. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions or believe I've gotten something wrong, feel free to leave those in the comments below and I will address them. Also, let me know how you feel about Kargath Bladefist and the Shattered Hand clan in both our universe and what you hope that they're going to be in Warlords of Draenor. Make sure to stick with this channel for continued Warlords of Draenor coverage because more is definitely coming soon. Sorry for the downtime while I figured out my computer situation, guys, and thank you for your continued support. With Warlords of Draenor on the horizon, there is always more and new lore to explore, and I hope that we can do that together, because hey, lore is fun. Thanks again, everybody. Farewell.